think we can start. I think the number that is in here is pretty good so far. Yeah, and anyone that is gonna come later will just catch up with us. So I would like to thank you again for joining us in the webinar. I hope you can hear me. Okay, I hope you can hear me. All right. So my name is Rachel Magodi, and I am the Community Engagement Officer at the Ifakara Innovation Hub. So for those who for those who don't know what Ifakara Innovation Hub is or what it does, so maybe I will take some time to just briefly talk you through what we do and all that. So Ifakara Innovation Hub is, I would say, is a center for innovation. We support startups to grow their ideas from when it's just an idea to commercialization stage. And we work with startups who have solutions that are solving challenges around health. We also work with startups who solve challenges for rural livelihood. That means we look at the sector of agriculture. We look at environment, or what do I call it? Climate change. And we also look at solutions for SMEs, meaning fintech at a minimal level. And yeah, so some of our programs at the Ifakara Innovation Hub, so we offer trainings that is for in-house startups, but also for our general community, trainings around entrepreneurship, human-centered design, and all that. We mostly look at what the community needs and try to bridge that gap and address their challenges through these capacity building trainings. But we also offer support to startups through grants, where we provide them seed capital to help them grow their idea to a stage where it can commercialize. We also have a program that we like to call entrepreneurship in residence. That is mostly for in-house startups. That involves it's an exchange program between Ifakara Innovation Hub or Tanzanian startups with universities, technological universities from across the world, where our startups get to learn from these universities, and in an exchange program, usually 3 months. While they're in that while they are in the what do I say? While the startups are in the program, they get to connect with other innovators from across the country, but also encourage the technological exchange between Tanzania and the specific country or university that we have partnered with. So yeah, I think briefly that's what we do. If perhaps anyone would have questions or something like that, please note it down. You can even write it in the chat box, and we will respond after the session has begun. After the session has ended. So yeah, without wasting any more time, I think I would like to welcome my colleague, Abbas, to take us through the main agenda for this webinar, I would say. So Abbas, karibu sana. Introduce yourself first so that everyone knows who you are.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abbas Sykes. I'm the Innovation Program Lead at Ifakara Innovation Hub, and I'm glad for everyone who has just joined this webinar. I hope my 2 cents can help you build on to your business or your product. Yeah. So without further ado, without wasting any time, I think let me just start presenting so that we can start. All right. Yeah. So today's webinar, we're going to be looking at applying empathy in idea generation. So empathy is a broad term, but it's something that's very crucial in a business aspect, because we look at empathy in just in a one-way point of view. But having empathy makes you feel connected and makes the consumer connected to your business or your product in the long run. So we start with understanding empathy. Like, what is empathy? Empathy is it's the ability to understand and share feelings of another person. So it involves three aspects: cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. Uh, so with cognitive empathy is understanding another person's perspective. Emotional empathy is feeling what the other person is feeling, and compassionate empathy is a desire to help. So unlike sympathy, which is about feeling for someone, empathy is about feeling with someone. So putting yourself in their shoes and understanding what they're feeling and what their needs are. So the benefits of empathy is that it enhances creativity and innovation, leads to better user-centered design, and fosters deeper connections with users. So it helps you know that having such connection, it will build more innovative and relevant ideas by understanding what the consumer needs and what they require. So most of the time, majority of the businesses that produces their products, they find themselves they're well attracted as founders and founders. You're well attached to your business and you don't hear outside opinion on how the other person perceives your product or your idea. So the whole point is to have that, to build that connection so that it can enhance creativity and innovation. Yeah. And foster deeper connection with your and consumer without you being attached to your own product. At the end of the day, you won't be solving any problem. So in practice, to have empathy, you should have active listening, perspective taking, and observing behavior and context. So in developing empathy, practice active listening so that to ensure that you're hearing exactly what the other person needs or your end users need, and you have to observe how they interact with your idea or with your product by itself, and understanding their pain points and what makes them attracted to your product. Yeah, and the different circumstances based on the needs of your product. So at the end of the day, you don't want your end users to have no physical attachment to it, and knowing that this product can have some use to them in the long run, right? So one of the tools that can be used in empathy is empathy mapping. So an empathy map is a tool used to visualize what we know about the user. So it consists of four main sections. It looks at what the user says, what the user thinks, what they do, and what they feel. So it helps us organize our observation and insights, creating a clear picture of the user experience and needs. So in terms of what they say, it showcases different codes providing insights from interviews, surveys, and conversation. So it shows you what they say about your product. So for example, if let's say, for example, you're talking about a product like Apple, for example. So what would a consumer say if they hold this phone in their hands, right? How do they perceive it when you ask them a question about the quality, how like they feel and touch? Things is about capturing the beliefs, opinions, and motivation, right? So what they think about that product per se. So when they see it, do they assume like anything about quality or anything about the battery life, and like what do they think about that product per se? And does section examine users' action, interaction with the product? So when it comes to using it per se and how they feel with the user interfaces, let's say for example, an Apple product, the pain points, the habits and the routines, and how long they use it for, and the likes. Feel captures user emotions and attitude, providing context to their actions, thoughts, aiding understanding what matters to them. So, for example, with an Apple product, compared with a Samsung, someone would feel that when they have an Apple product, for them, it shows some sort of class. So that's what it feels to them. Or when they use that product, it produces quality, or if it's about battery life. So that's what they feel about this said product. I hope we have all those questions. We'll put them at the end so that I can further clarify anything that I missed out or you didn't understand. So we also have innovation driven by empathy. So I have a bit of a case study that I'll share here. So in 2018, Joe and Gabia were two struggling entrepreneurs in San Francisco. So they were struggling to pay their rent. So they decided to rent out their space, some space in the apartment, and provide homemade breakfast for guests. So to better understand the needs and experiences of their potential customers, the two decided to step into their shoes. To gain empathy, Gaby and Chesky traveled to New York City and rented out their own space using their platform. They lived with the guests, captured their reaction, preferences, and pain points. This experience turned out to be crucial in shaping Airbnb's future success. So the empathy-driven insights helped them understand that people craved authentic, unique experiences when traveling. As a result, they shifted the focus from just renting out spaces to creating an entire marketplace for unique and local accommodations. They incorporated features like personal profiles, reviews, and detailed listings to build a sense of trust and connection between host and guest. By putting themselves in the shoes of the customer, Gaby and Chesky were able to create a platform that revolutionized the way people travel. Today, Airbnb boasts over 7 million listings worldwide and has become a global leader in the hospitality industry. So this shows how they identify the different aspects of empathy by putting themselves in the shoes of the consumer, and basically the change how the hospitality industry is working nowadays. Because nowadays, the first thing you do is you want to book for a space, you look for Airbnb before you travel to ensure that where you're going to stay and how you're going to interact with your consumer. So they understood the hassle that consumers face when it comes to booking a hotel and finding the way towards the hotel. Because at the end of the day, when you utilize the Airbnb, you find yourself that you have an intimate connection with the person who's renting out the space. One, two, what amenities that they can offer you. So you feel that, you get this homely feeling that, like I'm going to a place that's can be almost like home, because majority of hotels that used to go for holidays for, they find themselves, it's more of an hotel instead of a homely aspect, where by booking in an Airbnb, you get attached to something that you feel like I'm almost close to home. Yeah. So brainstorming with empathy, there's also the idea generation techniques. So with idea generation techniques, it looks at you to focus more on the user needs and experiences, encouraging diverse perspective. So when brainstorming, the key is to keep the user's needs and experience at the forefront, encourage diverse perspective within your team, and generate a wider range of ideas that address different aspects of the user's experience. So the key, as the previous slide said, is just to focus on what the user needs and requires. So at the end of the day, what they require is you sitting with your team and identifying different aspects of the consumer that you need to follow through, either from how you feel they're going to interact with your product, from the touch, the quality, the service that you're going to offer, how you think they're going to react to different aspects. Let's say they have a need or they have a problem with your product, how they're going to interact with you, or the different aspect of the user the user themselves, if it's an old woman or if it's a youth. So you have to look at different aspects on how your product is going to be utilized by the user at the end of the day. So how you can do that is utilizing the scamper technique. So scamper technique looks at substitute, combine, adapt, modify, and put to other use, eliminate, and reverse. So in an aspect of substitute, so you have to consider elements of the idea with something else. So this could involve changing material processes or other components while retaining core concepts. So the aspect of combine, here you explore possibilities by combining different elements of the idea. This might involve merging features, concepts, or functions to create something new and innovative. The aspect of adapt. So adaptation involves modifying or adjusting existing elements to fit new context or purpose. So this could mean tweaking the idea to suit different demographics, environmental needs. M for modify entails making changes to various aspects of the idea. This involves altering size, shape, color, or other attributes to improve functionality or appeal. So put to other use, this involves considering alternative application or context for the idea. So you explore how the idea could be repurposed or used in different ways to solve other problems or meet different needs. The eliminate involves removing or simplifying elements of the idea or the product. This helps streamline the concept, focusing on its core components and eliminating any unnecessary or redundant features. Reverse involves flipping the idea on its head or reorganizing its components in a novel way. These steps encourage thinking it in unconventional direction and challenging assumptions. So if you look at this, I can give you also another example of how Apple revolutionized the mobile sector back then. So back then we had the likes of Nokia and BlackBerry, which had a keypad, a physical keypad on the screen, on the phone to be utilized. So for them, you could see that you could either consider that they modified it or they rearranged or reversed the whole process of how a phone can be utilized. So by eliminating the keypad and using just a general screen to be utilized as a function of interacting with the phone in the long term, and which has stuck until today. So another issue you can see about adaptation, how different phones adapt based on what their competitor has done. So adapting new options and introducing new features. So as you can see right now, how phones are moving forward in the future. When one person does it, so let's say Apple does it, then you find the Chinese do it, and you find Samsung do it. So that's the whole process of adapting. So with the issue of substitute, you could see it with also the aspect of with phones. Now they're coming out with devices that they want to be not utilized by using touch, by just uttering out words. And yeah, so as the more we grow and the more you want to build up your brand or your product, you have to use such techniques like a scamper technique to help come up with new ideas and new solutions for your consumers. So another option that you can use is role playing and user journey mapping. So this can be used to understand the user experiencing by stepping into the user's shoes and mapping out their journey. You can identify pain points and opportunities for innovation. So this is, as previous one, you can see how the different slides are coming together, that you put yourself in the shoes of consumer and seeing how would you do it if you're in that person's shoes and how they feel in regards to your own product or idea. So at the end of the day, sometimes with these different tools, you find yourself getting more attached to it. So I recommend being very, very careful, especially when it comes to role playing, and not putting yourself as you, but as the end users. Because most of the time people make mistakes still having their own feelings and still being judgmental because it's their own product. So in the long run, you should consider the end user, not just you as the founder of that business. So that's my presentation around empathy. This is a big quote from Henry Ford. It says, if there's any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and seeing things from his angle as well as yours. That's by Henry Ford. Thank you. So I'm looking forward for the questions and discussions around my presentation. I hope I didn't go too fast as well. Questions?
Thank you, Abbas, for your presentation. I would suggest you leave your presentation up so that it's easy to refer back if anyone has questions within the.
And let me do so.
And then I'm seeing a comment here. This is from Chris. Thank you, Chris. Chris said, "Congrats, nice presentation." Thank you, Chris. Anyone would like to contribute anything? If perhaps you have any question or contribution or advice, anything. We want to have, a discussion basically. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, team.
Hello.
Yes, I'm Hamisi from Ifakara there.
Oh, hi, Amis.
Yes, I'm doing good. We have seen very nice presentation. Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to know why we really need empathy in innovations. Yes, if you can give more clarification on it, just a little bit.
All right. So usually we need empathy in innovation because most of the time when we're coming up with an innovation or an idea, we find ourselves thinking like we're just spearheaded, concentrating on our idea, but we don't know the other side of it. We don't know how the end user is going to utilize this idea or this innovation that we have. So we have to ensure that they're involved in every process. So at the end of the day, it makes sense to them and also makes sense to you. So that at the end of the day, when you're producing something, you can be able to sell it to them. So it can be able to solve their problem at the end of the day. If I'm making sense.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I have understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you want to make something that for them to be able to solve their problem. Because when you have a product, it's usually solving your problem. So it shouldn't be just a single person's problem, but a general problem. Yeah.
So we should shift our focus to maybe to customers
Yes.
or to those who utilize our services or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, great, great. Thanks much.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, another question.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. By name,
No
I
problem.
am George Sigala from Ifakara, and
Yeah.
so as I think it's a question, but it might also be attached to a comment.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
for sure, empathy is quite a important aspect when it comes to either developing innovative ideas or trying to improve a system that is already in place. It might
Yeah.
be your business, it might be the health system or anything. So
Yes.
it's quite important when it comes to improving or innovation. So maybe the thing that I'm trying to ponder on is uh, how best to, engage with the customers or end users in order to, really get it. I think maybe not, maybe I wasn't able to catch up properly, but I was pondering on how best can we employ community engagement techniques in order to ensure that we are also ensuring that we have empathy incorporated into the whole ideation process, or
Yeah.
even if it's something that's already launched,
Mhm.
so that it can continue improving. So maybe ways, or does it really vary depending on the idea or the the the, the business or product that's already in use?
So it varies from what stage you're at. So, and depending on what you're doing, so different things that you can do to create empathy and be engaged with your consumer, and then community aspect. One way you can have focus groups. So with a focus group, it means you call them in and you ask all the necessary questions that you have so that they be able to understand what you're doing. The other way, as you can see, maybe in the hospitality sector, that you have feedback forms at the end or in between, so that people can just share their insights first, so they can share their experiences, how they feel, how they're doing. Then after that, you can have the focus group to see how you can improve. Another way, as I stated, that is you can just observe what they're doing and how they react to different aspects of your product. So it depends on different circumstances on what you're doing and what stage you're at. So if, let's say, you already launched your product, more or less is um, you wouldn't know exactly how to reach them. So the best way to reach them is you have a toll number that they can reach out and state out their problems and their pain points, and you work on them. If you're just starting with it, so if you're just starting your idea, is to have constant communication with them and having focus group and just have testing with them from time to time at different stages. Yeah, that's how I see it, how it can be done.
All right, thanks a lot.
No problem. Another question? We still have time. No question or anything I can explain further in the presentation.
Maybe just another comment is that again the importance is, I mean, it's first of all it's an eye-opening uh, presentation, and it's something that I never really gave it thought, but after what you said, I am starting to recall a lot of scenarios, or at least coming to
Yeah.
have a proper understanding of some of the things that, for
Mm-hmm.
example, could be, I'm sure like there's some of the innovative products or softwares or innovative ventures that have been done in the Western community, as in the most, in the developed countries, that haven't been able to be successful in our settings because
Yeah.
it has probably lost that uh, concept of empathy. So you
Yeah.
cannot expect, yeah, so that could explain why you cannot just copy and paste something from developed countries and bring it here. It has to
Yeah.
actually go through somewhat of, I mean, by incorporating empathy, then it can, you know, be validated by the people if they're involved
Yeah.
in the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could see there's some brands that wouldn't do so well when it comes to readapting, even if they have a right idea and right notion. So the one that comes to my mind right now is there's a product in Turkey called Mavi, right? So Mavi in Turkish is blue, like the color blue. So it's a jeans company. So it's very hard for them to, let's say, put their put their business let's say in Tanzania, because we have a different term for it. So it wouldn't make sense for them to bring it here because of the misconception people would have when they hear such a brand name. So if they come without having any empathy and just opening their store, it could be a bad terms when it comes to, like I say, you open up a franchise of such a product. It wouldn't work out for you in Tanzania. But in Turkey, it's a huge brand, apparently, yeah. So yeah. So there are different examples as well. There was a car product as well that couldn't do well from, was it Spain? Yeah, as well. It had a different meaning in a different country. So there are many different examples. So I can also give another example, how other companies use empathy to grow their brands. So you can look at Toyota. Toyota, generally for us in Africa, it's Toyota. So if you go in the States, they utilize, in regards to empathy, I think they utilize the word Lexus, so they prefer Lexus. So even when it comes to the sizing of the car, so they know, they understand the user needs of the American people compared to elsewhere in the world. So I think that's the empathy process they've utilized to grow their brand as well in the world. Yeah. Yeah, another insight? Anyone wants to share?
Sorry, I was just also curious to get to know, as you know, the requirements can change time to time. So how
Yeah.
can we be able to maintain empathy in innovation process in any product or any idea? How can we able to how can we be able to maintain that?
Maintaining that aspect, I think is a very hard thing to do in the long run. But I think having constant communication, and I think for end user, they need to feel like they're being heard. So you could see, you can utilize, I can give you an example with the likes of how phone, I can give you, okay, one example I know of a phone brand that did do that in the long run. So if you know the company called OnePlus, so OnePlus, the way it started, it was a community phone for per se. So it was called a flagship killer. Yeah, so it being a flagship killer, it listened to the needs of the community members. So community members will say in the long run, oh, we need an improvement in the battery life. You know, most phones we use have problem with battery and the like. So that's what they introduced. We need a cheap phone that has almost all the necessities. So they try to reduce the cost of the phone while competing with the big phone brands. And that has worked for them in the long run. Yeah. But at the end of the day, sometimes to grow your business, when you end up listening to the consumer, even though we have to listen to the consumer, sometimes for the growth, it becomes difficult, right?
Yeah, okay.
You have to go with your guts as well and ensuring the survival of your business. So for the long run, OnePlus decided to go back and look at it in a different aspect to grow their business. And they did struggle. At the end of the day, they did struggle to sustain themselves in the long run. So they had to rebrand themselves again. Yeah.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
There should
thanks
be
for the
like a fine line.
clarifications.
Yeah, yeah. There should be a fine line to it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A follow-up question on that is, how do we know where the fine line is? How do you know that this is how far we can reach for our customers to at least get that balance between maintaining the business, a profitable business, but also, uh, performing and trying to provide customer satisfaction?
So I think when it comes to identifying the fine line, we'll look at how how much market share do you have in the market? How many consumers are you gaining in the long run? Because at the end of the day, it goes as a graph. So you might be gaining consumers at a certain rate as you keep on interacting with them. But at the end of the day, it will reach a time that it becomes stagnant. So I think when it comes stagnant, you come to re-identify is, am I reaching out at the right consumer at this point? Or do I need to look at some other aspect apart from having empathy with them? Do I need to use another technique for me to grow my business to a certain aspect? So I think that's where the fine line comes to play.
Something else I was actually pondering on is that I think there's always some few exceptions whereby I was saying that I was thinking, and I stand to be corrected, or maybe
Yeah.
you can also share from your own opinions and experiences. Is that there's some businesses that started off on an innovative that started off on an innovative start, but along the line, in the name of innovation, because obviously, in the whole process of trying to improve yourself, you can be informed by research, you can be informed by these surveys that can be done in terms of customer satisfaction and all. But I think in the name of trying to, have an impactful business, that this is something that would be very good for our customer base or for the community at all. I feel like depending on the brand, it gets to a point, if a brand is really that good, they're the ones that actually, influence, or, they set the trends of what is going to be the new normal. I'm not sure if you're getting my concept. I'm not very fully conversant in things like, more especially when it comes to phones. But one thing I've been getting from the Apple brand is that they started off as an innovative product.
Yeah.
But then somewhere along the line, it feels as if they are now setting trends instead of, letting the customers at least have a say or direction. I stand to be corrected. This is not a final statement from me, but what I'm saying is, if a brand is big enough, it really doesn't have to depend on what the customers think. That it gets to a point whereby the brand dictates the direction on which it takes, without having to consider what the customer base say, because they've already gained some kind of a loyal following to that brand.
Yeah, I get what you mean. But I still don't think that they set the ground in terms of innovation, because innovation at the end of the day, there are different things that sometimes Apple say they'll make, then consumers don't interact with it in that aspect, then they end up just canceling it. So the way how innovation has changed currently is they create an ecosystem. So an ecosystem of dependency, right? So that's how they capture consumers. So that's how I feel like the trend is going. You capture the consumer in an aspect that if they need something else, they have something within that ecosystem that they can utilize from your product. So they keep on coming up with new things that they test. If it captures the attention of your consumers, then well and good, then they build up on that. If it doesn't, they call it back, then they try something new. And yeah, so I think it's still the whole process that consumer at the end of the day should be involved in one way or another. So even though you're trying something new, if it doesn't work, take it out and build up on it. Maybe increase either a feature or an aspect that they know that it will work hand in hand with something else. I'm not sure if you have gotten that in terms of different products, how they work nowadays, if you have seen it per se.
Yeah, I totally get your point. I'm still trying to process it, but I think I understand you quite well. Because one
Yeah,
of the
it's
things
like,
I was thinking, for example, like in the health sector,
mm,
uh, you might have a very potential solution
yeah,
to a problem. However,
mm,
as long as it's not accepted by the community,
yeah,
then that's where you're going to get into trouble. Until
yes,
probably you have the backing of maybe research as well as policies that actually forces the people to adapt to the solution that has been provided.
yeah,
Uh, on a very large scale, a very good example was with vaccinations of COVID. There
mm-hmm,
was some kind of lack of acceptance to that, although it was highly needed and somewhat necessary to ensure that
yeah,
we have a thriving health system. But from a business perspective, if people are not accepting your product, that's what the problem is. It was only like they were only lucky that they had the backing of policies as well as the government that actually forced kind of people to adapt or accept this kind of situation. But still, till this day, there's a lot of skepticism around such things. So I'm just trying to think of that as an example, and somebody coming up with something. It gets to a point whereby probably, uh, depending on the circumstances, a certain brand or a certain solution or a product that has got huge potential just has to be accepted whether
yeah,
people like it.
yeah. It's as we say, at the end of the day, as you said, people have to accept it, and it's the way how we can utilize to make these people accept it. So if you look at it in the health aspect, if you look at the COVID aspect, with the COVID, I think some people are really pushed to that aspect of you need to be vaccinated. If one, you need to travel, right? If you need to move to another aspect, to another country. Another way they pushed the agenda of how the vaccine was good, and that it was required, a prerequisite for it, was to showcase that this big leader has also gotten vaccinated. So that builds a sense of trust in that product per se. If a huge person like maybe a president is getting vaccinated in public, utilizing if it is Johnson or Johnson, right? Uh, that led to other people saying, you know what, this can be used, and yeah, it doesn't have any drawbacks. That's how I see it. Yeah. 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 Anyone else? If there ain't any other further question, I think I could take it back to Rachel.
Yeah. Okay. I think thank you guys for the discussion. I think me from the background, I also like learned a bit. Like the thing with let's say about empathy or design thinking in general, like you always like get new stuff. Like you never stop learning. So that is what was happening with me on the background here. Some stuff that like I've heard about, and some that are still new, and I'm continuing learning. So I hope it was the same. It is the same experience with you guys. So yeah, so this is the first webinar of I think 4 more to come, because we are doing an innovation series on the innovation life cycle. The idea is to is to encourage, youth, innovators, startups, scientists, researchers, even anyone in any practice or any sector that they are on, they can be able to learn these things and apply in what they are doing. Because it's not necessarily that you use this knowledge to generate idea or to become an innovator or anything. You can be an innovator from where you're working at, or in anything that you're doing, you can become innovative and do something. So this was the first webinar, and there are more to come. So I would invite you guys. I want to invite you guys to also participate in the others that are coming. We have the next one next week. No, yeah, next week on rapid prototyping, and we are going to announce about it. So yeah, and if perhaps you later on come up with a question or have a question and you'd like clarity from us, you can reach out to us through our social media handles, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter at Ifakara Innovation Hub. Or you can email us through ihub@ihi.or.tz. I will just leave it here in the chat box so that you can all access it. So yeah, I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much for taking an opportunity to thank you for taking time and coming into the webinar, and we really appreciate it. Hope to see you in the next webinar next week. So yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you as well. Thank you for your time, for everyone who made it to the webinar. Yeah.